So that's a really great observation that you made. Yes, there is a relationship, an interconnected relationship between the predictable structure of thought and the icebergs of the self. So I've put them here side by side just so that you can notice what you notice as I speak. And then I'll give you a little bit of context as to what's going on with each one of these. And then if you're looking for more details, I strongly encourage you to purchase the Decloaking and Living Authentically audio files from Louise LeBrun's site if you haven't done that already. So we've talked about the predictable structure of thought. I think that was one of the things that attracted you to this conversation to begin with. And I get it because it is a powerful, powerful tool for understanding yourself and how it is that you function, right? It is, if your mind is programmable, this is the way in which you know how it is being programmed. So if you really understand the predictable structure of thought and the impact that that has on how you think, right? So if you can apply this viscerally, then what you get is this awesome understanding of yourself. And so you begin to expand your context furthermore. So, and that's what this is about. This is about the expansion of context. The predictable structure of thought asks you, tells you that the only place you have any leverage is when you raise your thinking up. So, for example, if you want to write a book and let's start with, if you want to write a book, the physical outcome would be an actual physical book. In order for you to actually write that book, you have got to change your behaviors. So instead of, I don't know, I don't know what you're doing on your day-to-day life, but it's like, instead of doing that habituated thing, you have to change your behavior to actually move yourself toward writing something. So your behavior would be that you're now walking to your computer to write something, right? So that's your, what are you doing, right? Like, what is it that you're really doing? And what you're doing is writing. But if you want to write, you can't just do it by physically moving. You've got to have a strategy. So now you're moving up another logical level to strategy of, how am I going to do this thing? So in order for me to write a book, I have to actually start writing. And how am I going to do that? So I can do that by writing, pen to paper. I could do that by recording thoughts on my phone. I could do that by actually writing on the computer. So there's different types of strategies that I can apply if I want to write this book. But many of us want to write books, and then something happens. You go to do the thing, you found out all about all the strategies that you can actually implement, and you go to actually do them, but what happens is something gets in the way. So you don't know what's getting in the way or why it's getting in the way. All you know is that you're feeling the bracing against, and you're feeling the frustration and the agitation and hopelessness, whatever it is that comes up for you as you go to write this book. So you can see that now we've moved into, what are the beliefs, values, and attitudes that you hold about yourself that potentially prevent you from writing the thing that you want to write. So as you move up to choice, so before I do that, everything below this point up to the beliefs, values, and attitudes is historical. So it's everything you've ever already known. As you move up to the choice point right here, what choice do I make? Which choice do I make right now? That can only be made in the moment that you're in. So your choice in the moment that you're in could go to look down and go, well, I don't really know if I'm a very good writer, and I tried to write that thing before and it didn't really work out. Oh, and my computer's an old piece of shit. I don't really want to use that. And, I really have to get up and move and go over there. I don't really want to work on my basement. So you find these reasons to actually keep replicating the status quo of your life, because something's going on inside of you that basically says, maybe you're not a writer. Are you sure about that? I don't know. What about that other person? So all the culturally conditioned stuff comes up. So at the choice point, what you're doing is you're compressing, looking down, repeating history. So in this line of work, in the WEL-Systems body of wisdom paradigm, What happens is we learn how to live choice point up. So, in order for you to make a different choice that's in alignment to who you want to become, you've got to actually think like that, right? You've got to actually be willing to look at the structure of thought, notice where your thoughts are catching, and raise your thinking up logical levels. And the point of the 5-day decloaking and living authentically experience is to teach you how to get to the choice point and look forward, make choices that propel you forward toward identity. Who are you capable of becoming? Because that directs and shapes everything below it. So when you know who you're capable of becoming and who you want to become, and you keep your lotus of attention there, you notice all the stuff comes up from the history, you learn how to embrace quantum TLC as a way of life rather than trying to make sense of it intellectually and trying to put your ducks in a row and whatever it is that people generally do, they try to strategize around it. Meanwhile, there's the wave that's beckoning them. And identity is directed by the I am that you are. So it's directed by the consciousness that moves through you. So, what is that? What is its purpose for being on this planet at this time? What is the life force that's moving through you? What's the intention of that life force? Because if the intention of that life force is not to be a writer, it's going to be really hard for you to actually write. So that's why in the manifesting conversation, we delve into what's your purpose for being here on this planet at this time. So that's, a very short, minuscule summary of the predictable structure of thought and how you make choices. So if you look over here now at the iceberg of the self, which is such a beautiful model, what you'll notice is that it's the predictable structure of thought reversed, right? So you'll see the environment is the first one at the bottom of the predictable structure of thought, and environment is at the top of the icebergs of the self. The reason why that's happening is because it's showing you, in terms of depth in the body and depth of awareness, where these energetic frameworks live in your being. So what's outside of what's outside of you, so what you can calibrate for externally, is, for example, the environment. So, like, where am I right now? I'm in my office and I'm working. So that's what I'm doing. The behavior is I am working in my office. Everybody can see that. Everybody can have comments about that, opinions about that, whatever it happens to be, because they can calibrate for what is actually visible, audible, very, yeah. Anyway, you get the point, that you can actually sense for, you can calibrate for. But what's going on underneath that line, so you see that water line there, are all of the things that are going on inside of us. So now you can see, you can calibrate for environment behavior, but as soon as we delve into strategy, it becomes more obscure. So you don't necessarily know the strategy that somebody's using. But if you can notice the strategy, maybe you can notice the why are they doing that? So, like, what is it that they must believe about themselves that allows them to make sense of this, adopting this strategy? So you begin, the deeper down you delve into how you can sense inside yourself, the more you can calibrate for your reality out there. So the deeper you can understand who and what you are, the easier it becomes to actually make choices that align with your intention, with your reason for being here on this planet at this time. So you can see, if you notice how it's reversed, spirituality is at the very deepest places of our beings, right? It is the deepest, most deeply rooted part. So if you don't like the word spirituality, that's all right. You can use the word intention, right? Like the higher order intention. Because what it does is it allows you to notice that it's a huge space of thought. It is not a concrete thing that you can plan for or calibrate for. You've got to be able to discover who you believe yourself to be, how you make the choices that you make. Like, what's your focus? Is it history down, or is it choice point up, a move toward, and what gets in the way? So like I said, that's where quantum TLC comes up. And who are you capable of becoming? So when I started this journey, I couldn't really grasp the spirituality component of it, even though I'd had multiple experiences of deep inner knowing that I am what I would have called at that time God, because I didn't know how else to call it. Like, what else do I call this thing that I know that I am, but I don't really know. I know that I am that thing, but I don't know how to live like that thing. And so I became isolated incidents of knowing through, Kundalini yoga or drugs or different modalities. So yeah, so I basically, what I learned to do through the monthly conversations, like you're in and all that sort of stuff, is I learned to focus on who do I want to become? Who am I capable of becoming? And then when I noticed that something would get in the way of that, is what's actually getting in the way here? What do I believe about myself that's getting in the way? So if you can begin to look at the predictable structure of thought on a daily sort of basis, and then you can notice you have a thought, you can look at that and you go, oh, well, I guess I'm focused on strategy and I'm hung up on how am I going to do this thing. Then what you can do is you can very mindfully and intentionally raise your thinking up and think about, I wonder, what do I believe about myself, about the world, about, fill in the blank, what I believe about that actually is stagnating me in my ability to create something, right? So like in my capacity to create this thing. Because if you don't actually touch your beliefs, values, and attitudes about the thing that you're seeking to strategize around, you will be stuck at the same logical level. And I think Einstein said this, that you cannot solve a problem from the same level of thought that created it. I think he was onto something. So this is your tool, right? To go to this so that you notice. And then if you want to, you can also bring up the icebergs of the self, and you can look at the icebergs of the self and you can notice that, I'm focusing on all these things out here. So who did what did they say, at what time did they do that, and all of these things. And there's no leverage there. There's no power in you focusing in the who did what, where, and when. There's very little power in how they did that even, right? And our whole society is filled with how-tos. So yes, sure. But if you don't touch the why, if you don't touch the deeply internalized historical beliefs about yourself, basically you're stuck. So I invite you to play with this. And the more you can bring your attention at least to the beliefs, values, and attitudes and choice point up, the more you will be able to actually stay with what's presenting and understand what's presenting and have those aha moments that I really believe you're seeking to have about yourself. Because when we feel, and I'm presupposing here, but when you feel, stuck or stagnated and you don't know how to do a thing and you're frustrated and you've got all of those things going on, you can very readily choose mindfully to look at this so that you can actually begin to notice things differently, not from your history, but from who you're capable of becoming. So here inside yourself, choice point up. How do I engage this moment? Choice point up. What might that look like? And because it's so unique to each person, it won't be something that I can tell you how to do. Now, if we have a one-on-one conversation, we can absolutely delve into that. And only through the moment that we're in can we ask the questions that are beckoning to be asked. But if I don't have a context, then I don't really know how to direct you other than to tell you, pay attention to your own internal cues. Because if you're paying attention to your external cues, you're outside of yourself and basically you're going to be lost. So I hope that this helped a little bit. Again, if you want more on this, which of course I encourage you to delve as deeply as you want to, on this. Um, get the decloaking audio files if you haven't already and start listening, because it has, 20 hours or whatever it is, 20 CDs, more than 20 hours of um, basically explaining all of this stuff. And it is intended to get your body moving. It is intended to get that energy in your body moving so that you can begin to live a much more meaningful and empowered and congruent life through delving deeper and deeper into your own internal senses. So I hope you found this helpful, and let me know. I'm more than happy to delve into whatever other questions you might have.